Haters, ¿cómo están? Bienvenidos nuevamente aquí a Conversaciones desde el Inframundo, conmigo su host, el Hater. Y en esta ocasión tenemos el gran placer de hablar con John y con Brittany de la banda, la grandiosa banda que es Wake, quienes este próximo viernes van a lanzar su más reciente álbum de estudio titulado The Return of Magik, viernes 14 de marzo a través de Relapse Records. Y pues sin más, vamos a pasar a la entrevista con nuestros invitados. Brittany, John, how are you doing, guys? Thanks a lot for being here for Conversation from the Underworld.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. We're doing great. I'm doing great.
Yeah, 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 doing well. Just excited. We're getting prepped up for these release shows this weekend. So really awesome revisiting some of these songs from the album that we have yet to play live yet. So that's been really fun. So yeah, thank you for having us to be able to talk about it.
No, thanks a lot to you guys for taking the time to speak with me. And well, you haven't played this album live yet, so I'm pretty sure that whoever will attend one of your next shows will have a blast because there's not a single song in this record that is not worth the time. Because I mean, man, the topics, the music, the arrangements, everything within the confines of this work it's meant to amaze you. And with me, it certainly did. So, congratulations because of your great work in this new album, The Return of Magik.
Oh, thank you so much. We're so happy that we it's been so well received so far from the people who have heard it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
should be, it should be.
yeah. We what you just said is something that we feel personally about it too. When we're putting this stuff together, it's we want to make sure that no uh, loops are left untied and no turns are left taken. So it feels good when other people connect with it the same way that we did when we were writing it and recording it and now rehearsing it and revisiting it. Yeah, it feels that way to us as well.
Great, man. Great. And I'm so excited for its release. I'm pretty sure most of the people who listen to it will get it and will have a real nice time listening to it. It's kind of hard because of its complexity, but at the same time, at least in my case, it was once you heard it, it was with time it goes easier on you. You can relate to everything within the album in a more easy way, and that speaks volumes of the quality and the humanity poured in this record. It's a great album, guys. And if you don't mind, let's start with the first question I got for you, Brittany and John. And the first question is courtesy of John Jarvis from the band Scour, who released their debut album a few weeks ago. Also from Agoraphobic Noisebleed, All Will Fall, China Girl, Fulgora, Ness, Colton One City, a bunch of bands he's in. And the question he asked is this one. What's your favorite Beatles record? You can only choose one.
That Beatles record?
Yeah.
Man, I'm not. My dad's gonna hate me for this, but I'm not a big Beatles fan. I'm
Me
sorry,
neither.
I'm not. So there isn't one that I could choose. I guess if I had to say something, it'd be Sergeant Pepper's. But
Then
I grew up listening to the Beatles a lot. But yeah, I was never. It just I was never a huge fan personally. I,
okay, but
I
I
understand people's draw to it, but
yeah.
it wasn't for me personally.
What about you,
I
John?
can yeah, I got no problem with this one. I'm a big Abbey Road fan, and
Okay.
I didn't listen to the Beatles growing up. Like it wasn't something my parents listened to or really anything. It was funny that the first time I heard the song "Something" was in college, and it was in like a music class I was taking, and I was like, "Who is this?"
Mhm.
And so that's being like 21 or something was the first time I dove into them, but you've got the song "She's So Heavy" on there, which is heavy as hell. And
Mhm.
then you've got, something which is like a beautifully written tune. Starting off with Come Together, just being a classic and all that. But um, and the outro, I think it's the three songs, is pretty much like McCartney tunes and stuff. The way that those weave together and just kind of put this album in its nice resting place, because it turns out, even though that album wasn't released last, I think it was the last one they recorded together too. So that's really cool that that's pretty much documented. This is the final recordings of the band in that way. But yeah, I like Abbey Road. I think it's the first one I dove into as kind of like an adult, because everything I thought before that album was, I thought they were just always poppy candy songs, I want to hold your hand and she loves you and love me do. And I was like, I'm not into that, like whatever. I just thought that their 6 years of existence was nothing but that stuff. And I do appreciate that stuff now, but whenever I heard Abbey Road, I started like going, oh, this is some pretty intelligent compositions here. So Abbey Road is kind of my first one I love, and I just kind of stick with that one whenever I want. It's a go-to record for me for them. So
Okay, great to know, John. Great answer. And Brittany, I'm on your team. I also grew up with my parents listening to the Beatles, but
Yeah.
I'm just not a Beatles fan. And believe me, I've tried.
I mean, when I was like 13, and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, that song, when I heard what it was about, I was like, whoa, that's crazy, but that's as far as my interest goes.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. Thanks, guys. Great answers. And we switch to my questions now, more related to the album, of course. And the first question I got for you is this one. So, the Return of Magik. It definitely feels like the magic has returned. But what took you so long to give us this fantastic piece of art, guys? I mean, 13 years. What? I mean, it's totally worth it, but what took you so long?
Well, so we'd been touring pretty hard back in 2011, and uh, I had my second child, excuse me, in 2012. Our previous bass player, he had his first child. One of our other members, they were having their first child around that time. And so we kind of just took a break for that. And then, days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years. People slowly start kind of growing apart, in that time. And so, to summarize it, very briefly, when COVID hit, the world
Mhm.
kind of stopped for a minute,
Yeah.
and when the world stops and, you're so busy with your everyday life and our careers and our children and our, everything, going on, that, once you stop and take a step back, you realize, what's really important to you. And we all came to the realization that playing music together was very important for us. And we wanted to, actually dedicate time to do that, because before that, we're all or nothing kind of people. We can't just give it a little. The music, to
Okay.
me, it deserves more attention than that. And it's such an emotional process. It's so, just you're so invested in it, just emotionally, physically, spiritually, that we just couldn't dedicate that time. But then we decided that, that we were going to start, working together with each other's schedules to carve out time to do that. But that also, during that downtime, both of our guitar players had kind of went their separate ways. And so, we had to move, make some lineup changes.
Hmm.
And so that set us back a little, ways, a little bit as well. But I think everything turned out for the better. And I think when you're put into positions, that force you to change, I think it can be a very positive thing. And so once we got our lineup solidified in about 2022 or 2023, that's when we decided to, go ahead and start tracking this new record.
Oh, well, that's a lot of reasons. Do you
Yeah.
concur, John?
Yeah, very much so. I joined in 2011, and I was
11,
kind of
yeah.
like a temporary replacement for Reid, who was the bassist at the time. And
Yeah.
I wasn't necessarily a bass player, but I just enjoyed, I'd known Wake since the mid to late 90s when we played our first show together in different bands, and just always been connected with them and friends and at that point becoming family. And yeah, when I joined on bass, it was like the Rest had just been finished tracking, and we had started doing like the promotional tours and things for Rest, and we got done with that, and then yeah, B, I think we did a tour, and B was in early stages of a pregnancy, and then after that, it was like, okay, we're gonna take a break here, and then we're going to reconvene at some point, and then it just kind of became, we'll get together once every 6 months or once a year or something, get together, maybe do a show, maybe do some writing, just hang out, and
Yeah.
yeah, just time happens, and so Reid at some point was able to get back in the band, and that was around the same time that the two guitar players kind of shifted off into their own situation, and then so I just shifted over to guitar, which is my original instrument, and then it was waiting for that final piece, which is turned out to be Austin, that we really felt comfortable, because in this band, it's like what B was saying, you don't want to force anything. And so not only does that go the same with music, but it goes with the members and the people that you make those music moments
Yeah.
with, writing songs with. So it's got to be something that works. There's a lot of shredders out there. There's a lot of people who are,
Of course.
they've got the right gear, they got the right this, they've got the right that, but there's just a mix of attitude and familiarity with each other, and it makes the friendship become more of a family, and then part of the
Yeah.
band. So that was the big thing, is that final piece was Austin being able to come in and just fit right in, and also not just fit in with what we were, but also help the direction a bit of like of not only just being the same Wake, but being still a notch different and better with our combined energy and ideas.
Definitely. I get what you're saying. You just need to look for your tribe and stick to it. And that's not an easy thing to do. And definitely when it happens, you have to take care of it. And yeah, I mean, the result it's over here, will be released next Friday. And as I was saying, it is totally worth it. And yeah, like you say, then time just passes us by just like that.
Yeah.
And but definitely, like Brittany said, it wouldn't have been fair for the music just not to invest the full self in this album. And I appreciate you guys did it that way, because there's nothing about this record that doesn't feel like full commitment to the art, to
Yeah.
the music. And that's as much as a music fan or even a musician can ask for another musician. So, great, guys. Thanks a lot for your answers. I mean, that's just clears all the smoke regarding that topic. So, thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Great, guys. The next question I got for you is this one. To me, your sound has always been kind of chaotic and corrosive and challenging. In this new album, progressiveness and experimentality elements, well, really took off. What inspired this even more layered sound?
I think that's always been kind of a signature of our music is just always pushing the limits of what we do. We're very authentic in everything that we create, and we've never tried to paint ourselves into a corner of what style of music we are in any way. And that allows us the freedom to be able to do whatever we want and whatever we feel like the moment calls for. And so I think we're really lucky at that. And so with the foundation of this record, our drummer Jeff, he wrote a lot of the music, and he wrote it back in like 2018, and then the
Mhm.
other part he wrote in 2020. And so he gave us an awesome foundation to kind of build off of, and so with that, we just when you take the rest of our personalities and our contributions, we were able to shape it into what it is today. I honestly feel like we used a lot of restraint when it comes to adding a lot of layers. I try to stick personally, I try to stick to the philosophy, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And so when we're adding, as we're building this, I hate to even call them songs, but when we're building these pieces of music, we always try to think, if I'm adding this here, would it be missed if it was gone? And I try to stick to that philosophy for me personally. And so that way, it doesn't get too distracting, and I think we're really good at that, to where we're able to build all these layers and build these dynamics and build this stuff without it ever being, too distract. Everything is very, very deliberate. And like I said, if anything, I feel like we show a lot of restraint, and to where everything's very focused, because I think it's really easy, especially when you're in a studio, in that kind of environment. It's really easy to kind of do too much.
Yeah, of course.
And where the song loses its power, or like whatever it is that, a melody or whatever it is that you're adding there, it can lose its power when it's surrounded by too much. So we always try to think of, everything that we write, every little, piece of music, every melody, what's before it and what's after it, and does it always complement whatever's coming next? Because sometimes it might take away from the power of something. Even like, with heavy vocals, if you're just screaming nonstop all the time, it loses its power.
Yeah.
So we've always taken the dynamics of a song and then the album as a whole very serious when it comes to constructing our sound as a whole.
Great. Yeah. Can you elaborate even more on that, John? Because I mean, you guys are being amazing with your answers. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Brittany's exactly right. And there were moments when, being guitar players, you want to just, especially when you get in the studio, guitar players, you just want to go, oh, this harmony, oh, this harmony, this harmony, and all of a sudden you've got this like quadruple
It's
threat,
your playground.
right. And so we have to kind of think about what we can pull off live too, but also, you don't want to, sometimes it's like, no, it's not time for that payoff in the song. There's a moment later where we could actually do that, and it makes more sense there, because once you go so far, it's hard, where do you come back after that? So building in that space, and what Brittany was saying about, is like, well, I miss it, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
sometimes it's it's the removal of something that makes more of an impact than the addition of something. So there
Mhm.
were a few times when, and another thing about when we're working together, we all respect each other's opinions, respect each other's ideas. We trust each other's ear for things. And so there are times when B might say, "Hey, I don't. Maybe we should lay off. Like, you guys, should maybe the guitar shouldn't be harmonizing so much here, because we just did that a bunch in the previous song, and then here we're wanting a little bit of space here." And then there's also parts where we're like, "Hey, the guitars here go from being erratic to being a focused slab of concrete, just barreling through someone's ears. And so maybe we don't need some of these key things, should maybe go down in volume here, and it should just focus on that kick drum, that bass, and those guitars for just a second." And it helps like go from being like a big, beautiful photograph of a landscape to all of a sudden you're zooming in on a flower, you're zooming in on a piece of, or on a conversation or something. So being able to have that conversations with each other as band members, where we listen to each other and trust each other, has been extremely helpful. And in the moment when you're thinking about it, you're like, I don't really know if that's going to work. But then when you look at the album as a whole, you're like, we made the right decisions on this, for the dynamics of the album, not only the song, or not only the moment, but then that part, and then the song, and then the album. And then whenever you start to construct a set that you're going to play live, you can then play into that as well and say, well, here we go. Remember this part, well, let's make sure we get this song away from this song because they have similar things or whatever. So I think that elaboration, my elaboration with Brittany is really just exactly what she said, but also just us being able to trust each other when we maybe give each other a tip of like, hey, maybe we back off here, or maybe it needs this or doesn't need this.
Yeah, man, and all that you're saying, guys, definitely you can sense it in the album and the harmony and the fact that you talk so naturally about we can trust each other, we can be honest, we can say everything that we think, and we put the best out of that comment, that out of that insight. It's something very admirable because you are actually functioning like one big family and a very functional one, because
Yeah.
at the end of
Yeah.
the day, maybe with all the disagreements or the agreements, the differences, and all the collaboration that you guys bring together, the result is in this occasion and most of your releases is a masterpiece. So that sensitive aspect of the band within the band and through the music that you create definitely is contagious, and it shows all around this record. So it's great to know that um, just the things that you are projecting in this album and the things happening within the band just completely make sense, just connect.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. The next question I got for you is this one. The concepts developed in the lyrics are clothed in a very beautiful and at the same time distressing form. Do you think that because of the downside of the lyrics and its disquieting vibe, it's so easy to connect with them?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the lyrics or the music, we always leave it the listener up to their own interpretation. Like you
Hmm.
can interpret it, whatever, because I mean, even for me, I every day, it's a day of different emotions, that I may interpret something differently.
Yeah.
So we always try to let the listener, make up their own mind on what they feel like, what it means to them. And so we've always tried to do that. But it's the lyrics are a lot like the music in the way that it's they're dark, but they're also like really beautiful, and there's like a lot of really positive stuff. I feel like overall, the record is, while it's very emotional, it's more positive. At the end of the day, there's more of a positive message than anything else, and I hope that that's what the listener um, that I hope that's what they get out of it as well. It's more of a positive experience.
Yeah, very, very well disguised, maybe you could say, with the aggressiveness and the
Yeah,
rawness that you can find in things as important as the riffs, besides the lyrics, and the feeling. My God, the feeling within the songs, it's it's so viral.
yeah.
I mean, what can you say about that, John?
I mean, this is, there are a few vocal and lyrical performances on this record that are like my favorite. I mean, of course, you know, this is my first record being in the band as a arranger, writer, performer, and all that. But I've been a fan and friend of Wake since the beginning, and there are just some moments where it's my favorite things I've been a part of as a musician, and some of the lyrics, certain songs. There's just these performances and everything. It's like my favorite in in music in general. And I've always been a fan of CT and B's interplay together, and there's such a unique voice from each of them, and always have had that respect. And that's one of the things that I feel is always made Wake unique from other heavy bands too. Because of you can understand some of the vocals a bit more, and so therefore those lyrics need to kind of have a bit more weight, and um, it's something that people can listen to and hear without having to look at the lyrics on a sheet of paper. They can feel it a
Yeah.
little bit better.
Yeah, and we hope that even if you can't understand what you're saying, what we're always saying, I do feel like people can feel it. They can feel what we're saying.
Yeah, exactly. It's not an absolute necessity to know exactly what you're saying. Just you can feel it, like you said.
Yes.
You can feel it, and it's up to interpretation. That's the beauty of art, also. And I mean, and this record has a plethora of angles and conceptual things that you can touch within listening with this to this record, and that's one of the things that I am enjoy the most about it, because I have been listening to it in so many different contexts, and it fits. It just fits no matter what mood I am. It's a great experience. I find myself always banging my head, with the air guitar, and just clenching my fists and my teeth with the song. So as a musician and as a singer, that's my aim. I would like to create something that means something to
Yeah.
another person. And in this record, the whole song for me, particularly, meant something.
It's great. I mean, and I think this is the first record that we've ever recorded that actually captures our sound in a way that it was intended to be listened to.
Mm,
So like previous records, I think we've always been a live band, and so if someone saw us live, they got it, and but the records didn't always come across that same way.
yeah.
And I think this record actually captured us, and like what we sound like, live. I mean, playing music is just pure catharsis, right? Just especially live. It's just this balance of like deep presence and transcendence. We lose ourselves, we get carried to another world, and then it's like the magic is like fully complete when the audience goes with us on that journey, and I think this record we were actually able to capture that, to where somebody can have that experience at home,
Hmm.
which I don't think we've ever been able to do before. It was you had to be, I feel like you had to be at one of our live shows in order to go on that journey with us, but I don't feel like you have to on this record, which is great.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that, because I like a lot if you walk before your crawl,
Mhm.
and called Hell is Adopted Sound. Those are great records. But yeah,
Yes.
I mean, with this one, you definitely took it to another level. And yeah, I haven't seen you live, but with this record, I feel like I don't need to. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. Great, guys. The last question I got for you, it's a much simpler one.
Okay.
And the question is this one. Well, both of you, each of you, sorry, do you have a favorite song on the album, and why? If you have, and if you don't, yeah, also why?
If I could go first, I'm probably hopefully John doesn't pick the same one, but it's fine if he does. I'm going to say track 4, Distant Constellations and the Psychedelic Incarceration.
Hmm.
Um, that to me is my favorite Wake song to date, that we've recorded. My other favorite Wake song we're still working on. But my that song to me captures everything that I want out of music, all into one piece of music. I think the journey that it takes you on is just so absolutely amazing. The dynamics, all the elements that we put together. I mean, I think it was just the way that we put that piece of music together, is just absolutely amazing. And I hope everybody else likes it as much as we do, because I think it really encapsulates everything that we are as a band.
Okay, great. What about you, John?
So that song is a topper for me, certainly, especially I just got into town and we're convening and we're playing that song for the first time with live intentions behind it. So
Hmm.
that song is yeah. But if I had to choose kind of a, 1A, 1B, I track 3, um, is it Stardust?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm
With
not
Stardust Flowers.
with Stardust Flower. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you play them for a couple of years with just no name on them.
numbers.
You kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
just numbers. But
right.
I love that one because it's got some of the best, I think, you know, we talk about band and we talk about the community and how we feel together. And so that's always primary, but that one's got some of like my favorite, like individual
Oh,
riffs and individual performances in it. There's a line in there, CT's, you know, yelling about horned serpent with 1,000 blackbirds. I'm like, good Lord, like what a piece of imagery in my mind. I love it. And there are these a couple of riffs are very just stomping and like a great example of like a kind of doomy sound. And then I get to really experiment with some pedal steel there that I hadn't done before. And also Austin's got, you know, his lead on this one's part is just so ripping. So there's just a lot of really unique performances, a lot of kind of like uh you know, not eating, you know, the album's like eating the whole meal, and for me that's kind of like a lot of dessert in one song, and it's just a lot of little sweet spots that I enjoy. So I really do enjoy that, playing that song live. And but yeah, Distant Constellations is one of those. It's like a full meal, you
yeah,
know,
definitely.
in one song. And so I'll go with that in both of those there.
Yeah, definitely. It's in Constellations. It's a journey that pays off. Definitely
Yeah.
pays off. Yeah, both tracks are well, the four informed tracks are just amazing. Just particular taste. I'm not a fan of outros, intros, and that stuff. But the four songs that are informed in my perspective, man, I was like the whole time. The first time I heard that, I was like just shocked shocked of the magic that was happening in the speakers. And every time I listen to the record, I'm still kind of shocked, not losing my functional abilities to live in the world like the first time, but I'm still in shock. And thanks, guys. Well, those were all my questions for you. Thanks a lot for your honesty, for being so candid and so fun to talk to. And as we were speaking before the start of the interview, please help me with to formulate a question that I can use for my next guest or guests. Please be my guest and shoot.
Okay.
Do you have
You want to get a question from me and John both, and then you?
Yeah,
Okay. My question would be, what was the first record that shifted your spirit in a way that opened a door inside you?
great question will be, and I expect a very deep answer for my next guest.
That's a good one. Are most of your guests typically like heavy rock and roll
Yeah, I
artists?
focus on heavy shit, everything
Uh,
from everything that's heavy, I listen to, no matter the
yeah,
genre.
okay. Perfect. Well, I guess mine is for that heavy person, and then this and the person you ask may have not come across this yet, but for me, what was the first record that came out or that you attached to? It doesn't have to be a new release or anything, but the first record where it wasn't actually heavy, but it was, with guitar or drums, the music wasn't heavy, but the lyrics were heavy, and you started to maybe realize that heavy was more of a vibe instead of a sound. Is a more emotional heavy record that did not have heavy music to it. Is there a record for that? For instance, I don't know, like Neil Young, The Needle and the Damage Done, like that song sort of thing is like heavy as fuck,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like this, the music is serene and acoustic and low key, but the lyrics are, you know, they're the real deal.
Yeah, and they are actually nowadays are pretty much acts, very much acts like this. Amigo the Devil or back in the day, Van Sant and stuff like that. Pretty heavy
Yeah,
stuff. Like
exactly.
if you don't pay attention, it's just a country song or something like that. But man, when you listen to it, you kind of want to take a seat and take the time to process the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys. Well, it has been a pleasure for me to have you here on Conversation from the Underground for El Haters channel. Please, if you want to say something to the haters, please be my guest.
Oh, thank you. Well, first, thank you so much, Mario, for having us. I really, really appreciate it. Um, if anybody wants to support us, they can by going to our online merch store. It's Wake Big Cartel. If you Google it, it should show up. But other than that, just thank you so much for giving us the time, to speak with you today.
Now, my pleasure. Thanks to you, Brittany. And John, please.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time, the great questions. You got a great attitude, man, and I
Thanks.
love that helps us open up. It's the same thing about when we're in the audience and we're playing for people. The attitude and the energy and stuff is it's a communal thing, So thank you for having that energy, and you got a lucky group of listeners out.
Great.
Rock and roll blood and fire from you, man. They're in a good spot.
Yeah, man, they are definitely are. Haters, eso es todo lo que tenemos en esta entrevista con John y con Brittany de la banda Wake. No se pierdan, recuerden, este viernes su gran retorno triunfal con The Return of Magik a través de Relapse Records. Nos estamos viendo en la siguiente entrevista, en el siguiente video. Haters, por favor, cuídense mucho.